Welcome to the Real P3 podcast, now co-hosted by myself, Casey Bradley, and my esteemed colleague, Philip Johan Oldendahl from Zimbabwe. As we reintroduce the global agribusiness dimension to the Real P3, we aim to connect you with extraordinary individuals who inspire us to become unstoppable in both life and business. While I continue to shed light on the latest in animal nutrition and health, focusing on the U.S. perspective, Johan will open the doors to his vast global network as a Nuffield Scholar. Embark with us on this enriched journey of discovery and practical insights. Our expanded view will navigate through the intricate world of agribusiness, powered by the collaborative efforts of Animistic and Swine Nutrition Management. This podcast is your bridge to groundbreaking ideas in animal nutrition, agriculture, and beyond, promising episodes that are not only enlightening, but deeply inspiring. Tune in to grow and transform with us. Welcome to the Real P3 podcast, where science and heart converge, empowering knowledge to spring into action.
Okay, hi everyone. So today I'm here with Michael Martin from Ireland. How are you doing, Michael?
Hi, Philip. How are you keeping? All good here.
Good. Tell us, where in Ireland are you?
So I'm in the southeast of Ireland, in County Wexford here. Quite rainy behind me. The summer's supposed to be here, but yet the rainfall hasn't stopped. So we're hoping for a bit of sun coming soon so we can get the harvest underway. Please God.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to understand everything you say. That's why I asked you to be specific where in Ireland you're from. We might need some subtitles on this particular recording. And so Michael and I are both Nuffield Scholars. I'm a 22, he's a 24. And we've just done the Global Focus program. So other podcast recordings out would be from Dave and Molly. Michael was one of 3 team leaders for the USA leg. So we've done Indonesia, France, Denmark, the States, which Michael's going to pick up on. And then they moved off to Chile after that. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about the GFP. How was the whole experience for you?
Yeah, the GFP was eye-opening, really. Starting in Indonesia, which is completely opposite, I suppose, of here in Ireland, with the labour force, the population size, the demographics. Jumping then through Europe, which was more familiar. I was more familiar with it, with Denmark and France. And then into the US, I suppose, which is, all about mass production, all about scale, all about quantity. And then down to Chile, which is, I suppose, halfway between scale and quantity and quality. But it was an eye-opening experience. The culture differences, meeting people, and getting to know your fellow Nuffield scholars from all around the world was certainly an experience. Even you, Philip, from Zimbabwe.
Yeah. We had 6 countries. We had to have a Zimbabwean represent. And I think we were lucky. We had such a good group of people and created some, what I hope to be long-lasting friendships. And I think that's the core of what Nuffield should be. It's the people you meet, the relationships you build, and the network you carry on for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we visited 5 countries, would really get to know the people on your GFP the most and what their country is like, even though you might not be in their country. So even like yourself, I wouldn't have known much about Zimbabwe, but I sure do now about the bush and everything else.
And we're going to get you to come and visit pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely looking forward to that.
So we'll have a little condition attached to that, though. We're not going to talk about the Springboks or the Island rugby teams at all. We're going to make a little agreement there.
That's okay. We'll leave it out for today. The next time, though. Next time.
And yeah, Mike, so thanks for doing this with us. And I didn't tell you before, but we really got you on here live and on video because you're going to sing the Cranberry Zombie song for us. So take it away.
No, I need my my partner, Nick, there, missing him from Australia. So once I have him here beside me, we'll go live then on a special.
I'm going to take you guys up on that. We might have a video floating around if there's enough interest. Yeah, Mike. So going back to the USA, I mean, you were one of 3 team leaders for that leg. We split the group up and we had different country leaders, and you took the reins on the USA as well as did a stunning job on sort of treasurer. But The USA, something that struck me, like I didn't expect it again, like it really blew me away, was the homelessness. We started in Fresno in California. And maybe for the first visit to the UK, that might not have been the best city or town to start in. But coming from Africa, we're not, we can see poverty all around, but it was different because you're here, sort of people look after their own, right? Like they take them on, and people that are struggling will go to like a rural home area or homestead, whereas just people on the streets all over the place was something I struggle to get my head around. What are your sort of thoughts and comments on that one?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. But I suppose for someone coming from Europe, it's something that's become normal nearly, that we've seen, across Europe, but especially in the States. Like it definitely is, like, at the worst there. San Francisco is kind of like the home of homelessness, really, and that whole West Coast, because I suppose the warmer climate, they flock there. But yeah, no, it's certainly very sad to see, and how they're not just in the bigger cities now, like San Francisco and these places. They're also then out in Fresno, where we were, in the middle of, well, not quite the middle of nowhere, but it's quite a rural part, even though it's one of the massive food producing counties in the US. Yeah, certainly agree with that. It's I suppose it's happening right across the world, but yeah, certainly very bad in
Interesting.
The US.
Interesting that you say you're seeing a lot in Europe as well. It's not something I'm used to seeing, which is really, like I said, strange coming from Africa and seeing that level of homelessness. And like you say, it's some of them made a comment like they'll import homeless people there because they don't die from the elements as easily, which was quite sad. Yeah. And do you feel like a part of it's like drug related? Do you think it's just enabled? Yeah. Do you think it's high labor? Like what are your impressions on that?
Yeah, I think certainly drug related. Like the vast majority of them, they're not homeless because they can't find work. They're homeless because they suffer from drug addiction, and then as a result, mental health problems and so on. But certainly drug related, and falling into the cracks, I suppose, of society. And in the US, it's kind of, they're going to defend themselves, or they look after yourself, and that's kind of what they all focus on, rather than, I suppose, the community spirit that you might have in Zimbabwe, or that we do have here in Ireland, especially in the rural parts anyway, that you look after your community and your friends.
Yeah. And then, not to focus on the negative as well. I mean, I think they've turned California and Fresno into an agricultural powerhouse, which I think was desert, and they've created water systems, waterways that have allowed them to turn all that land into ag. And I remember one of the figures was 70% of the United States walnuts and almonds come out of there, and various other really big claims. And again, like you said, USA scale, size. Have you ever experienced farms on that scale before?
No, not quite. I suppose in Brazil, I've seen, similar kind of, large scale as well, but nothing as specialized as, like them almond farms, that the peach farm we visited, and so on. Like the man was saying that when he started, there was 60 peach farms in the US, and now there's just 6 family peach farms in the US. So I suppose how it's going to get big or get out, and certainly they've gotten big and they're able to produce that scale. But yeah, it's very heartwarming stories that we see right across there, California, in terms of family farms that started very small and have gotten very large and very profitable, and employing thousands of people, I suppose, across the state.
And like, again, this is something I struggle with. Is that a positive or a negative? Because everything's turning to one company or two companies owning a particular industry or ag sector. And a big part of me doesn't feel that that's the way the world should be going. It's putting a lot of pressure on the smaller farmer that's left. I do, feel that we're going to be walking down a road with farmers and agriculture and resilience. And bigger corporations, we visited one, not to name it, which had like a $9 billion portfolio buying up land. You've got competition from, like you said, heartwarming because it's a family farm that's upscaled and upscaled and upscaled. But at the end of the day, they've had to become aggressive. They've had to sort of absorb land around them to remain in the market, to remain alive. But that's putting pressure on just, your actual normal run-of-the-mill family-run farm. It's putting an immense amount of pressure on those people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I suppose it's but it's happening, like, again, across the world. At the moment, there's 137,000 family farms in Ireland, but that's decreasing year on year. Farm sizes, they're selling, renting land. There's more part-time farming. There's less full-time farmers. There's a greater reliance on direct payments from the European Union. Like 40% of an Irish farm's income comes from direct payments from the European Union. So, you're seeing we're supported by subsidies, but in the US, I suppose they don't have those subsidies, and then they're just closing the gates. They're putting up the for sale sign, and the big guy comes in and takes over. The subsidies do help us to maintain the family farm, but I suppose it's something there's no perfect answer or perfect key, I suppose, to making the family farm sustainable.
It is, and that's actually another topic entirely on its own, as a subsidy one, because we had a group chat in one of our scholars chats, and my commentary wasn't taken too well, but I'm going to say it again. I think if you're dependent on subsidies, your business, I feel, is setting itself up for failure in the future. Your business resilience or ag resilience in that business is going to be tested. What I feel where the world is going. So my comment was, enjoy the subsidies while you've got them, but don't have the model. If you are having a farm or a business that's reliant on subsidies, I think you are setting yourself up for failure in the future. Enjoy the subsidies while they're there, but whatever subsidies you get, take that funding and use it for external investments, buy property, invest in something outside of the farm, but don't have a model where you're dependent on those subsidies to keep that farm alive. Like, you need to find a way that farm is able to run without the need. It's nice to have it as a net, but if you can set up that it's not dependent on that, I think for the long run, you guys are going to be in a better space. So I don't know. That's a bit of a sidetrack. It's an interesting subject because we don't have subsidies here. Although it's been said that our labor is subsidized because it's so cheap. I disagree with that as well. But yeah, what are your sort of comments on that? What do you feel?
Yeah, like I agree with you. The dairy farms are most profitable in Ireland, and they get the least subsidy on a per hectare basis. The dairy farms do. So they're profitable on the least level of subsidy. Without the subsidy in Ireland, so many of our farms are so small, like the average farm size, you're talking, about 32 hectares. So those small guys they wouldn't exist. They would just sell. So without our subsidy, like the larger farms, they say like a farm ourselves here, like we get subsidies as well. We're full-time farming, and we've, full-time labor on the farm, and, it makes money. But you go, some other part of Ireland, and it's, 30 hectare farm to have 20 suckler cows and 30 cattle. They're not going to make very much money. The subsidy keeps that farm running, I suppose. Without the subsidy, that's, I suppose, the subsidy, they're very tricky that way. If you want a profitable business, maybe you could call it's a fake hope or a false hope.
It's interesting. So I fully understand that you can't run anything on 30 hectares unless it's like a massive, high value cash crop or something. But food for thought, maybe a discussion for another day. We could probably have a round table and talk through the subsidies. So I get it. I get that you can't make money out of 30 hectares. I get that you need the subsidy. Yeah, so we kind of got through the subsidy, like you explaining that, on a 30 hectare farm or a 36 hectare farm, you can't make money out of that. A family can't live and sustain themselves for the year. So without the subsidy, they would be non-existent. So yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I just know for a fact, and you made the comment, it's a false hope, really, because if anything changes or for whatever reason the government has to or is not able to pay that subsidy anymore, people are going to go under like flies, left, right, and center. Yeah. And I certainly feel like especially after this GFP, and I don't know if I just haven't decompressed properly yet, that, it isn't looking good the way the world is structured, whether it's, sort of third world and people getting taken advantage there, or these massive corporates and scale. It's just eating into the first world and incorrect narratives around everything. I just think the whole thing seems to be unbalanced for me.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Natural OMRI listed clay additives are revolutionizing how we look at biotoxin, moisture, and bacterial mitigation. The industry is shifting towards new, non-pharmaceutical solutions to these age-old challenges. Profile Products specializes in natural solutions to support environmental and digestive health that promote growth and performance. Visit profileanimalhealth.com to learn more. Expert support and global distribution. profileanimalhealth.com.
Yeah, no, certainly I agree with you. I don't know what the silver bullet is. I suppose subsidies work in some ways, but then, even debates we would have had there with the Australians, and, they kind of wonder, or they see how we're propped up by him. But I know for a fact that farmers here in Ireland, across the European Union, wouldn't do the same level of environmental actions as they do if they didn't have a subsidy, because like we don't just get the money for nothing. Obviously, we have to do environmental actions and sustainable approaches to get the money and to get the subsidy. So without the subsidy, farmers would be probably less likely to engage in environmental actions for sustainable food production systems.
Yeah, interesting. And that was another thing. So we're sidetracking hard here, but I think we should. Like my comment when I got back, after this was like, has the world gone mad? Because, I mean, Denmark, they're looking at reducing the number of farmers, and in France, we had the huge reduction in their cattle production, where they're still eating more and more beef. It hasn't reduced the consumption of beef. They're just no longer producing it themselves. And it's like we're putting a lot of pressure on farmers to be more environmentally sustainable. And we're reducing agricultural output, which is in turn, I feel, affecting the world a lot more negatively, especially because, there's so many more mouths to feed every day, and hunger is a global problem. Like, is that the right approach to be taking? Is reducing farmers, going back to environments, farming food, inverted commas, sustainably, reducing production levels when there's more and more pressure from a world that's hungry?
Yeah, like I agree. A difficult one to answer, I suppose, in terms of what is the best answer. But yeah, France have huge problems there. Like France is some of the best agricultural land in the world, and they're seeing huge reduction in, like you said, cattle numbers, but also farmers, young farmers getting into farming. If they're one of the biggest food producers in the European Union, or are the biggest food producer in the European Union, and they're seeing a big drop off, which is worrying for, I suppose, the rest of Europe, but also, the rest of the world. Oftentimes these things happen somewhere, and in a first world country like France, and they follow suit right across the globe. But I think something has to be done. Or is it more education for how our food's produced in schools, or more engagement with farm organizations or food producers or the consumer at the supermarket? But yeah, definitely, if we could talk all night about it, I suppose.
I think so. We should definitely have some roundtable chats. Again, what was really nice was perspectives from around the world, right? We had Irish perspective, we had New Zealand, Australian, Paraguay, and Chilean. We had so many different perspectives. We were able to have really cool conversations about all these countries we visited, people we spoke to, businesses, policies, and everyone, has a unique perspective. And I think it's really nice when you can, that's why I say, there needs to be some time to decompress. And I think part of that decompression should be re-entering discussions with, the variety of people we had around us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the variety of cultures and then perspectives that you bring was eye-opening, because you learn more about, I learned more about Zimbabwe, about Australia, New Zealand, Paraguay, and so on, than the country we're actually in, from listening and talking to you guys in the evening times, or over a few beers, or along in the car, and stuff like that.
Very few truths were spoken over the beers. I just what was fact, what was fable. We got to go through that too.
Well, absolutely,
Going back to California, what blew me away there as well was how, they manage their water systems, the Sierra Nevada, the sort of snow caps that they rely on that water amount to come down throughout the year, and that provides the water. I think there was some concerns about climate change, that they don't have that sort of reservoir available anymore. So they've had a huge initiative of sort of refilling their underground water, their aquifers. and they had like made these huge sort of catchment areas for when they do get good rains, that it would actually catch water and refill the aquifers. Well, how did you see that? Because I think that's very different to Ireland. You guys, my understanding is that pretty much rain all the time there, as opposed to every drop counts.
Yeah, absolutely. You count every drop. We just give out about every drop, I suppose. Look, I wouldn't have known much about water before I went into GFP. I certainly picked up a lot when I was in California because of the lack of water that they get there. But how they manage it is actually amazing, and the work that goes into it today. But also, I was amazed at the work that they've done, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago and beyond that, that the science that they use, the engineering that they use to farm 100 years ago in California was advanced and modernized in many ways. But yeah, like here in Ireland, irrigation, we don't use it. There in California, it's like every drop counts and getting it down. And they have a good bit in the north, and I suppose they're not too bad, and it's not a problem. But then the south, and like in Fresno, like water is the biggest cost of production. Water here is cost us production in terms of killing the plants with too much water, and over there it's a lack of to get into the ground and so on. So yeah, certainly that was a big thing. Yeah, the special things. But yeah, in terms of what stood out for me for California, if I'm going to predict what I'm going to jump onto here, was their approach to sustainability. And I suppose my topic or my research topics on
zero approach to sustainability.
Zero approach. But my topic is all about sustainable beef production, but that takes sustainability in general. In Europe, I suppose, I remember being in Brazil at the CSC, and there was a Brazilian woman there. She said the Europeans shout about environmental sustainability. In the US, they shout about scale, quantity. The higher the level of the production, the better. And in neither country do they think of the people. And I suppose she kind of thought that in Brazil that's what they put first, so that's what should be put first. And I have to say, I do agree with her. In Europe, European Union, like, it's all about environmental sustainability, has like achieved that, whatever the cost. In the US, they don't talk about it at all. But then they do talk about it in certain places, certain people, certain demographics. It is all about sustainability. For example, when we're in that peach farm or that peach plant, processing plant, they were using biodegradable plastic around the peach and a biodegradable kind of cardboard underneath the peach. So they were talking about biodegradable plastics and cardboard. And as I asked the man that ran the farm, they talk about these kind of things, sustainable, materials. But yet then for every single morning we ate breakfast in the 2 or 3 hotels in California, we ate breakfast off a paper plate every morning. A paper plate and a plastic cup. Like, how is that? That doesn't add up. How is one person demanding that the peaches come in biodegradable materials, and then at the same time we stayed in a 4-star hotel, a nice hotels, we're eating off paper plates. Like, there's a problem there. It's either the people on high level incomes are demanding the biodegradable plastic materials, and then they don't care about the rest of the people. But yet then we're staying in a 4-star hotel, which is it's a nice hotel, and we're eating off paper plates. Like, I just couldn't understand it.
I knew it, and I knew you were going to talk about it, and I would have preferred to give you a couple more beers so you could rant about it again, because it certainly did make you. You're like, put it on a ceramic dish, put it in the dishwasher, like everything is just like go, fly, eat, chuck, it. And there was a vast difference from traveling through Indonesia. You didn't hear the word sustainable come in once. Everyone's trying to survive. It was amazing chaos. Someone kicked an ant's nest. Millions and millions of people. Boom, we go into France. Everything is about sustainability, carbon footprints, and then same as Denmark. And then we had such a juxtaposition going to the USA, where I don't think I heard anyone talk about, carbon footprints or sustainability. It was all just mass production. And that's, I don't know if that's just an American thing. We don't talk about sustainability here in Zimbabwe. There's a few people who are dabbling in a bit of regen. but it's not something that the farmers here have started taking really seriously. I think because of the length of time you have to invest in your livestock or your crop to get to sort of commercial, non-sustainable production levels. But relating that back to like the paper plate as a metaphor to the attitude in general is really interesting. And I think that's the point you're trying to drive home. It's a throwaway society.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But I think it's ridiculous, because how an American then defines sustainability is completely different to that of someone in the European Union, to that of someone even in Zimbabwe or Indonesia. Like there's total differences there. Like we're all trying to fight the climate change, war really, which it is. And like some people, we're reading off different hymn sheets. We are reading completely different hymn sheets. Like, the consumer, it's another problem, obviously, and you could talk another podcast about it, is the obesity in the US. Like, it's all convenience. It's convenience food, it's convenience material, it's convenience lifestyle. It's like quick, easy, cheap, kind of get through it as quick as possible. Like it's a totally, compare that to Denmark, where it's everything's kind of, prim, proper, done right. It's not all this kind of fast convenience foods and so on. It's a total difference. And then obviously Indonesia is just a bit of has its own things going on there, but it's chaos. But yet it's happy chaos. The people there, you said it as well. I never seen people as happy, and they had very poor. We seen a young guy, 25 years of age and same age as me. He climbed up a tree in 3 seconds, and to get the palm oil out of the tree to turn into palm sugar to sell for 62 cents a kilo, and he had 50 trees. And he was delighted. The way it's different ways of living.
I loved seeing the little kid he was probably a 10-year-old kid, no shirt on a little scooter with a cigarette in his mouth, and I was like, this is so funny.
Yeah.
But just a disclaimer, I think we might have quite a few Americans listen to this, and we did only see a very small part of the United States, and we might get some feedback, which is actually interesting to see the comments. Because if there's room for it to be justified, it'll be really cool. We have a perspective of a very small piece of the pie, and would love to see that. I'm going to bat all of that your way, Mike, when it comes through. So but again, America, big scale, innovative, and you made the comment, like something innovation from 100 years ago, they're actually still using that today to farm. So, and again, I just wanted to say that, like, humans are pretty incredible, like turning a desert into massive farmland. Like my comment then was, because we were talking about, we started seeing the differences between the countries and what was priorities or not. When you take a desert and you turn it into an agricultural powerhouse, would your conversation be about sustainability? Like, we've literally taken nothing and we've made crops grow here. Where nothing would grow, so why should we talk about sustainability when we've taken dead land and it's thriving? So that could be, a sort of justification on that side of it. Had you been to the States before?
Yeah, I had, to be fair. I know I'd love someone to engage with me on it, I suppose, because the US, like, powerhouse of food production across the world, like even Fresno there, I think is it 4% or the highest proportion of food per county in the US, and it's a huge producing county and state in California. But I've worked in Missouri on a dairy farm there, so I got the perspective of, I suppose, what rural America is like. And I have to say, I was hugely impressed with rural America in terms of how they, you didn't see homeless, not saying there isn't homelessness, but like I was in in rural Missouri, like you really are kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I seen, like, the great community of people. You're going to the town. I remember I went into a town, I got my driver's license, and I was able to get a driver's license, a theory test, a driving test, and an eye test, all done in one day. And like it's
efficient.
It's efficient. It's really efficient. Like, and it's like they're for the people in terms of, like, in Ireland, for example, you want to do a driving test, it takes about 2 years. You have to do.
You got to pull the guy at the bar first as well, right?
Yeah, you have to like go through a massive rigmarole, but there, it's efficient. Like, it's really good process, and no, I really did enjoy those more rural parts of Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, Kansas, and even went down to the deep south into Louisiana and places like that, and seen quite a lot of the US, to be honest, and have always been impressed with what they do, but definitely big contrast between there and the European Union, I suppose.
Yeah. So when you guys went to Chile, I couldn't get my visa for it. They have an issue with Zimbabweans for some reason, and so I hopped over to Miami while you guys went off to Chile. And Miami was like a different world, but I think Miami on its own, on a global perspective, is on its own. So Florida, Miami, we were on South Beach, and I must tell you, the wealth. I have an old friend who lives there. I hadn't seen him for 15 years, and we had a really good catch up. We had another Nuffield Scholar fly over from Canada and meet me there too. So we went fishing and hung out, and they said to me, stop calculating, because they kept seeing me looking at all these like massive buildings and these Teslas, but these new Tesla trucks, and there's like the money was unfathomable almost. And they just said, stop trying to compute how much money you think there is. I mean, there's this little island right off of, Miami there that's got the highest GDP per square meter in the world. It's where all the multi-billionaires live. And it was just insane. And again, that's why I said, was Fresno the right place to go for me for the first time in the USA? Because it's so, and like, fortunately you've traveled a bit, you got an opinion, but you guys, we got a message to get out to you, is get rid of the paper plates, bring the ceramics back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Mike, so this is our time coming up. I think we missed out what you did as a background. We went straight into pulling your leg a bit there about being Irish, but you work in education. You're a university lecturer, right?
Yes, I teach. I specialize in ruminant nutrition, so looking at kind of animal science and nutrition and animal health. But yeah, teaching agriculture basically. I also teach. I do kind of run educational farm walks on my own farm here. So secondary school students, which would be between the ages of 16 to 18, come on farm and get kind of an on-farm experience, which complements their in-class learning, I suppose. So yeah, kind of dabbling my feet in a couple of things, but also farming beef and crops at home here in County Wexford.
Very cool. Mike, thanks for chatting today, and it was really good to see you again and catch up. And again, we look forward to more adventures in the future. We're definitely holding to getting you guys all out here to Zim for a bit of fun this side.
Absolutely.
I was just showing you a little python that we caught. I think we can show some of the guys. If you've got a snake phobia, turn it off. But we caught this little guy the other day, and I caught about close to a 4-meter python as well when I got back. Which hey, this guy's getting active. So yeah, it's just good to be back home and back in the bush. So and we'll get you guys snake wrangling in no time.
Looking forward to it.
Take care, Mike, and thanks again, bud.
Thanks very much, Phil, for having me on. Thank you. Take care.